So here's a study that I just learned about that I'm really interested and fascinated by. And it speaks to generational cycles, so if that's something that piques your interest, pay attention. There was a study where some researchers, they took some groups of mice, and they would introduce the scent of cherries and berries, and then they would give the mice an electric shock. And then they'd introduce the scent again, and with the scent, electric shock the mice. And over again, they kept bringing in the scent and pairing it with the electrical shock. Well, soon every time the mice smelled the smell, they of course would start freaking out because they knew the shock was coming, right? So fast forward, 3 generations of mice later, not raised with the generation that was shocked. They never saw this behavior. They never would have had a chance to observe and learn through observation this behavior. But somehow, within 3 generations of mice, when they introduced that same smell to the 3rd generation, who had no experience of that trauma, they freaked out. And this happened across all the generations in between. Even though they had never actually seen their parents react this way, it was encoded in their genes, and it became instinct. That's how generational cycles can get passed through your genes, from your parents to you to your kids, even if they're not actually cognitively observing and learning through your behavior. It's something to think about. So when we're coming into awareness and we're learning our own patterns, it's really important to get the story of the generations that came before us if we can. Find out what they're dealing with, because even if you didn't see the physical reaction to their trauma or learn it from them, you're carrying that in your body, and your kids are carrying it too. Being informed, being aware of what you're working with, it's half the battle. No generation is ever going to get it perfect. As we grow, we're all going to end up through things in life. Traumatic events are going to keep happening. But one thing we can do is educate ourselves on what we're currently dealing with in our present, and try real hard to give ourselves the tools now in the present to cope with them, and to give the future generations the education they're going to need to cope with what they've got. It's an interesting little study. Fascinating stuff. But the whole point of me sharing this with you is because I want to make the world a better place, one soul at a time. So take care of yourself, and then see what you can do to help others.